Okay, let's have an explanation of the Mukyan Zhong, the wooden dummy. So one of the things that we learn about the wooden dummy is that basically it's a training device for Wing Chun. Mostly Wing Chun, some Jeet Kune Do, but usually the apparatus is a little bit different. The one thing we notice about the Wing Chun dummy, like a true Wing Chun dummy, is that the arms are offset. So basically you have from here, the arm is offset, so you can see that it's offset. So in other words, what we do is we consider this like a yin and yang dummy. So in other words, this dummy's facing downward, this dummy's facing upward. So we call it yin and yang. If we want a double yin, we put this one down and you can see that the arms are considerably further apart. And if we want a yang yin dummy, it's like this. So then the arms are really far apart. So in other words, when you have the offset arms, like the two upper arms are always offset. The middle arm isn't, but the two arms upper are. Some wooden dummies they're not, but usually on a Wing Chun dummy they are. So we generally practice in a yin and yang position. But you can move it around and change your dummy around. The one thing we learn about the wooden dummy as well is that actually these arms represent the forearm. But people think, okay, well, just the forearm. No, they actually represent the humerus too. In other words, this part of your arm as well. So a lot of times when we're trapping, we're actually trapping the shoulders and we're coming in here. So you learn that the wooden dummy is basically for the forearm, depending on the scenario or the section of the form, or it is the humerus part. So you have the radius and ulna, and then you have the humerus part of the dummy. So the middle leg or arm could be a kick, could be a leg, could be a low punch, whatever. But so this is kind of, and then you have the lower leg for the wooden dummy as well. The one thing that we know about the wooden dummy is that basically, if it's a good dummy, they're actually cut in squares. So in other words, they hollow out the hole as circular, and then they chisel out squares. And the reason being is so that you can tell to what angle you're applying pressure at. It's the far left, inner left, down, and around. So each one of these arms have like 4 different angles that you want to work on. So you want to make sure that you understand those angles as well. The key thing when you buy a wooden dummy is a lot of them are a solid one-piece wood, or a lot of them are laminate. This particular one is old. I've had it for decades, right? So it's one solid piece of wood, and it's best if you can get a solid piece. If you get a laminate, they just feel a little bit different, but sometimes that's all we can get now. Also, with the wooden dummy, you want to make sure that you keep it somewhat in a humid room or some humidity, because a lot of times this wood comes from southern China, which is known to have a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture, and then you bring it up to, like, say, certain parts of Arizona, California, Colorado, where it's quite dry. A lot of times you'll get a lot of cracking, so you want to try to avoid that. The other thing that we know about the wooden dummies, it's not about hitting it really hard, because you'll see a lot of people, especially beginners, they just want to hit it hard. And it's not about hitting it hard. It's really about staying connected and moving while you're sticking to the dummy. You must stick to the dummy. So, and also you're developing inch power. So if you can hit the dummy from a little distance away and fairly hard, then that's good. But otherwise, it's not about like hammering out the dummy. You see a lot of people hammering out the dummy. Another thing that we know, that we watch, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, you have to shift. You have to move your legs. You have to shift. You can't stay in one position as far as your feet go. So you need to shift. If you're not shifting, you're not really doing the dummy right. So in Wing Chun, we have Siu Lim Dao, Cham Kyu, Biuji. Siu Lim Dao, we say we're doing internal and external. Cham Kyu, we're doing shifting and stepping. So in other words, Yu Ma. And Biuji, we're doing whipping power and yin and yang. So technically, all 3 of those forms are inside the wooden dummy form from the very get-go. So a lot of times, you shouldn't really be learning the wooden dummy form unless you've learned those 3 boxing forms. And certainly not going to understand it unless you've learned those 3 boxing forms. And applying internal, external, shifting and stepping, whipping and yin and yang power, all inside the wooden dummy. and staying connected. That's the key. So always trying to stay connected. So imagine that there's a light bulb on your dummy, and every time you make a connection, the light bulb comes off. But if you disengage, the light bulb shuts off. So you want to try to keep the light bulb lit as often as possible in the energy. So you practice sticking. We have to shift. So if you see people that are doing the dummy, they're doing their cows out and there's no shifting in the hips, they're not moving their bodies, then it's actually no good. I mean, in fighting, you have to move, right? We can't stay like statues. You're going to get hit. You got to move your head. You got to move to the side. You got to move to the other side. You got to create angles. And that's what Chamkyu and Byuji does. And so that's exactly what the dummy does. If you imagine the dummy that this is the center line, almost the entire forms of the dummy they're attacking, we're attacking to the outside gate. So in other words, this is like the inside gate here, and then this is the outside gate. So we're always attacking to the outside gate. So in other words, like if I have my right arm with his right arm, then bong sao, then tan sao, and then here, wan jiang, side palm, here. So you're moving to the side. So we're always moving to the side of the dummy. In other words, our center line, or my core, is facing inside his core, but his center line is away from me. Most perfect. Because if I face him like this, if I'm facing all the time, then he's equal to me. And so we want to try to make it unfair. So in other words, we want to get to the outside gate. In other words, we want his weapons or her weapons to stay away from us. And we want to move to their side of the gate. So 45 degrees to the dummy. Most wooden dummies now are mounted inside. And so, in other words, they have these slats that are set at 90 degrees. So we have the top and bottom slats that are set at 90 degrees so we can move in. So when we attack, we're attacking here. So this is 45 degrees, but my palm, wan qiang, is attacking like 45 to 90 on the side. And then you practice kicking. Also, when you're moving to the dummy, you also want to imagine that these are like knives or like spears. So if I'm attacking here, I'm away from it. So I'm not, in other words, I'm not letting this hit my belly and cut me. So I'm here, and then I move this direction, this way. So I have tan sao and dai bong sao. So in other words, this is away from me and this is away from me. So try not to be overextended like this. In other words, he would already be hitting me, right? So there's a lot of key things to the dummy. At the end of the dummy, we call kao sao. So in kao sao, when you shift, I'll show you here, you have to go this direction, shift, then this direction, shift, and then strike. So if you look at my head, you can see I'm moving this way, and then strike. So you want to be able to move out of the way. You know, if you look at boxers, they bob and weave, they move their heads because your head is a target. Remember, Wing Chun, we say head of glass, arms and legs of steel, and belly of cotton. So this is glass. You want to avoid getting your head hit because glass breaks, right? Your head breaks. So it's easy to get hurt. And we have to shift. If you're watching somebody do the dummy, I don't care if they say they're great grandmaster, whatever, and they're not shifting, it's no good. It's no good because we have to shift. We have to be able to move. If we don't move, we're going to get hit. So we want to think of this dummy as an alive person, and we have to move to the side and to the other side and go to the center. We have to learn our angles. All right. Good job, guys. We will see you again. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button and refer me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I will keep sending out these videos 2 or 3 a week now. So take care and God bless.